In early September 2023, the G20 Summit was held in India. As the host, Indian Prime Minister Modi was in high spirits and took advantage of the summit to launch multiple economic and political cooperation initiatives. People couldn't help but feel the unstoppable rise of India. As Indians cheered for, India is about to replace China as the next world factory, a question lingered in everyone's mind. As India advances towards becoming the world's second, will it face suppression from the United States? So have you thought about this? Why is the US so afraid of the rise of China but never the rise of India? Well, judging from objective data, China's GDP will surpass that of the United States in the next 20 years. However, India is at least half a century away from challenging the US economy. India's GDP growth rate over the past 15 years has surpassed that of the US, but India's GOP growth rate has only surpassed China's twice. At the same time, China possesses some military power that the United States cannot defend against. Moreover, the Chinese tech industry is challenging the US in many areas. China is either on par with or ahead of the US in several areas such as 5G and artificial intelligence, but India's technological development is not yet in the game. So we can tell that India cannot be compared with China in terms of economy, military or technology. However, from my perspective, we cannot underestimate the development potential of any country. In fact, India's GDP growth rate is 5 times that of Britain and France, and it is about to overtake them to rank 5th in the world, and its population is about to surpass China to become the first. Moreover, India has the potential to develop into the world's top power, both in terms of size and geographical location. After realizing the issue of education equity, perhaps India will become a rival that both China and the United States cannot underestimate. The question is, if India wants to be strong, it is useless to rely on the West. The most fundamental way out is to cooperate with China, Russia, Iran and other countries, and hold the power in its own hands. After solving this problem, let's talk about a more interesting question. Why is the United States afraid of China like never before? Okay, do you know what is the Thucydides trap? The Thucydides trap is the theory that a rising power will inevitably challenge the dominance of an existing hegemon, and the latter's fear of that prospect can trigger competitive dynamics that ultimately lead to confrontation, even war. As a rising power, China became the world's second largest economy in 2010, second only to the United States. The delicate and complicated relationship between China and the United States has always been the focus of the world. Many people think that the Thucydides trap is like a curse that will eventually happen to China and the United States. In the past few years, people have become more and more pessimistic about Sino-US relations with the growing anti-China forces in the United States. Besides, with US targeting China with trade measures that are clearly designed to reduce China's access to markets and technology, this outcome seems increasingly plausible. The US Secretary of Defense ever said publicly that China and Russia have less than 10 allies. At that time, many Chinese were very irritated, but they could not refute it. After all, China has indeed pursued a non-aligned strategy for decades. But with the decline of American power in recent years, especially after the withdrawal of the United States from Afghanistan last year, the world has begun to change dramatically, most notably in the Middle East. Even more intriguing, in 2022, several major countries from the Middle East visited China. The foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Turkey and Iran, as well as the Secretary-General of GCC, paid a state visit to China from January 10 to 14. It is clear that China is expanding its influence in the Middle East since the US withdrew its troops from the region. Why did the representatives of the 6 Middle East countries visit China? A lot of people don't understand why China should meddle in this. But if you look at the world map carefully, you'll see how important the Middle East really is. In the vertical version of the world map, there is a very clear feature. That is, the real center of the world is actually an island composed of Europe, Asia, and Africa. In other words, millions of years ago, the three continents of Eurasia were a complete super-island floating on the vast ocean. The Middle East is a transit place for Europe, Asia, and Africa, and a necessary place for China's ancient Silk Road. If China wants to regain the glory of the Han and Tang dynasties and become a world influential power, it must extend its influence to the Middle East. This region has a quite important geographical location. This collective visit to China by representatives of the three major forces without any summit is quite rare in the whole history of China. For countries in the Middle East, this visit to China can illustrate at least 4 points. First, countries in the Middle East recognize China's strength, and hope to properly solve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the Iraq issue and the Iranian nuclear issue under China's regulation. After all, only strong countries are qualified to be mediators. Second, they want to share the benefits of the Belt and Road Initiative. China's massive vaccine aid to Serbia and China's live delivery of pine nuts from Afghanistan all prove that there are enough benefits to cooperate with China. The Middle East is also an important oil and gas producing area in the world. Oil is a strategic resource urgently needed by China, so this cooperation will undoubtedly be a win-win situation. Third, the United States and Western countries frequently hype the Xinjiang issue, but countries in the Middle East are more qualified to speak than the US in terms of race or religion. Therefore, the collective visit of the 6 countries to China is equivalent to telling the world that we support China's position in Xinjiang. This is a hard slap to the United States. Fourth, the encirclement around China that the United States painstakingly built is gradually falling apart. Last year, the comprehensive strategic partnership between China and ASEAN was open to traffic. China and the old fellow railways were officially open to traffic. This is telling everyone that China and Southeast Asia will become an inseparable whole in the future. Now, the Middle East is also approaching China. With the long-term cooperative relationship with Russia and China's operation in Africa for many years, the isolation and blockade of the United States against China have collapsed. The in-depth cooperation between China and Russia also scares the United States. As a military power, Russia has very strong military strength. Russia has become the world's top force with military strength second only to the United States. As a huge territory across Eurasia, Russia can take military action against any opponent in Eurasia at any time. However, Russia's vast land area, harsh natural environment and scattered population distribution lead to its relatively backward light industry. Cooperation with China can just make up for the vacancy in this regard, so as to promote and develop each other. In addition, China and Russia are closely linked in geographical location and have a large area of land. Therefore, such geographical advantages can also promote in-depth exchanges between China and Russia. The two countries have also carried out many cooperation projects in this regard, such as China-Russia Nuclear Energy Cooperation, China-Russia Oil and Gas Cooperation, China-Russia High-Tech Weapon R&D Cooperation, etc., which have greatly promoted the relations between the two countries. Okay, that's all for today. How do you think about it? Please put your comments or suggestions in the comments below, and share your thoughts about today's topic, so that we can have a further discussion. Your immediate reply is the encouragement that we can move on more videos in the future. Thanks for watching and have a wonderful day. If you like our videos, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We will see you in the next video. Goodbye.